So my name's Corey Feraldi. I'm the Director of Career Services, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how to communicate your key career competencies, or really the skills that you've obtained through your degree at USC Aiken and how they apply to the positions that you might think about applying for as you graduate and move into the world of work. Basically, what this gets down to really is how do you become career ready to make that transition, and how do you articulate to employers the skill set that you have. So there's me. I've been the Director of Career Services for over 24 years here at USC Aiken. I come from the blustery land of Buffalo, New York. So we're going to start this actually with a little quiz just to test you out in the beginning. So what I would like you to try and do very quickly is match the column on the left, which are USC Aiken alumni with the degrees that they earned, to the positions that they are in or were in at some point in time that are on the right, that are obviously in a mixed up order. So for example, number one, Michael Gordon. If you think Michael was the implementation specialist on the right there, you'd write implementation specialist next to Michael Gordon's name. So take a quick minute and see if you can match these people up with the careers that they were in. So once you've taken a little time to do this, let's go through and see what we came up with. So Michael Gordon was actually the implementation specialist. I gave you that one, so you should have got at least one right. Number two, Davius Smith was the Director of Education. 3, Richard Jackson was the teacher. Katrina Green was the Career Development Supervisor. Justin Barrett was the store manager. Lee Drawdry was the retirement plan advisor. Brad Hall was in inventory management control. Ashley Dent was a bank teller. Cora was a client support specialist. Kenneth was the director of residential services. So if you had to do a really quick grading, add up how many you got right. Anybody get 9 or 10 right? How about 7 or 8? 5 or 6? So I'm going to guess that none of you are in any of those categories. I'm going to guess that everybody got a big fat F and failed this little quiz. Everyone fails this quiz. Why do you think that is? Why is it so hard to match these people up with the careers? Well, the first thing you're definitely going to say is that the majors do not seem to match the job titles that are there. You look at number 3, Richard Jackson, you're like, how is somebody in psychology a teacher? Or number 5, Justin Barrett's biology, how is he a store manager? Or number 8, Ashley Denson, education, she should be a teacher. How is she a bank teller? The majors did not seem to match the careers that were there. Hopefully one of the things you gain out of doing this is the fact that by getting a college degree, you really open up yourself to a lot of different possibilities career-wise. Now, there are certainly certain careers that need certain majors. If you're going to go into nursing, you've got to be a nursing major. If you want to really get somewhere in accounting, you probably need to be an accounting major. But what you'll also see is that there are a lot of careers out there that you can get to with a variety of majors. It's really about the ability to take the skills you gathered while you were getting that degree and apply it to those particular positions. That's what these people did that are in positions that don't necessarily match their majors. They made themselves career ready and have the ability to apply what they learned in each of those degrees to the particular positions that they applied to. So I use that phrase career ready. What does that mean? So NACE is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and they actually created a definition of career readiness. So to them, career readiness is the attainment and demonstration of requisite competencies that broadly prepare college graduates for a successful transition into the workplace. So it is the attainment You get to have that by completing your college degree. And then the demonstration, which is your ability to articulate your skills to an employer. So we've got people that attain the degree. It's the demonstration to the employer that is sometimes the hard part for new graduates to do. So let's just think about it from the employer standpoint a little bit. What skills do employers look for in new graduates? What's most important to them? If you had to think, what skills would you say? So again, NACE has done some research in this area, and they came up with 8, and they call them competencies, career competencies that employers have identified as the most important to them. Critical thinking, problem solving. Problem solving is huge. They want people who can come in, analyze situations, and make decisions. And when problems arise, they know how to go about solving those problems. That's huge for employers. Communication is also a huge area for employers, and that's both oral and written. Can you communicate effectively? Can you work in teams and communicate? And speaking of teams, that is also on the list. Teamwork and collaboration. You will find that most employers now have team setups where people are working in groups to achieve team goals, and that's why that skill is very important to them. Of course, technology is on there. Technology is changing every day, and employers want individuals who have a knack for that. We're going to talk more about leadership. Leadership is very big with employers. You've got professionalism and work ethic. I have employers tell me that work ethic, if they've got somebody who just is professional and works hard, they're 2/3 of the way there just in that alone already. So they want people who definitely have that work ethic. Career management is kind of the purpose of this little seminar. Career management is really the ability to articulate one's strengths and apply it to desired positions or goals. And then global or intercultural fluency is really just a fancy way of saying diversity, valuing and respecting others. You're going to be working in teams with lots of different people, and so they want people who have that ability to work with others. I wanted to show this real quick because this relates to these competencies. In this first table here, employers rate, how important they find each of these. You see the first 4 on there in a 5-point scale are higher than 4. So they're really important areas to employers. That problem solving, teamwork, professionalism, work ethic, and communication are really big for employers. I also wanted to come down and show you this one. So this one, it says employers rate recent graduates on their proficiency in these 8 competencies. So you see, for example, like teamwork is above 4. So they feel like graduates come out with a pretty good proficiency in teamwork. They're working in group projects, they're doing things, they've got that proficiency. You see the lowest thing on here is career management. That didn't even make a 3. And so that's kind of why we're talking about this topic, is because employers don't see career graduates as coming out and having that ability to apply their skills towards particular positions they're applying for. I also wanted to show you this because I think it's pretty interesting. So this question in the survey was, who gets a job when choosing between equally qualified candidates? When 2 candidates are equally qualified, what would an employer choose from? So you see the first 2 are pretty obvious. It has completed an internship with your organization. Obviously, if somebody has had an intern in their organization, that's going to weigh really heavy with them. Internships in general weight really heavy. So I very much encourage, if an internship is not part of your college career, that you try to get that type of experience. Employers really value it. And then equal with major is held a leadership position. So obviously leadership is very important to employers. You can even see that it has increased a little bit each of the last couple years. So it definitely plays a big role in employers. And you can see that at USC Aiken, we've got a lot of different leadership related type activities, whether it's a leadership certificate program, whether it's peer educators, whether it's giving tours to prospective families and students, whether it's student government. There's just lots of areas where we've had students get leadership experience. So then I've got a question for you. So why do some students who have a bunch of leadership experience struggle? And they asked this question to the employers as well. And here's what they said. Employers indicated that applicants fail to explain the connections between their activities and the leadership experiences and the desired job skills of the positions they were applying to. So they had all these activities in leadership, but they couldn't make the connection of, here's how my experience here relates to the job I'm applying to. They couldn't highlight these skills and articulate them to an employer. In articulating them to an employer, communicating them really comes down to using specific examples. Specific examples are huge. You got to use specific examples to be able to convince an employer that you've got these particular skills. To an employer, the past is a predictor of your future. So if you have done something in the past, then they're going to believe that you can do it in the future. So what those students who've had those experiences, those leadership experiences, have to do is be able to use specific examples to communicate that skill to an employer. And think about all that they can pull from. So our resident mentors, they've got all sorts of things they do. They've got to collaborate with other people to put together educational programs and other types of activities. Crisis management, there's always, whether it's a roommate conflict or an emergency situation, they're dealing with those. Time management, RM's a 24-hour job. They've got to always be working while they're doing that and taking full loads of classes. So there's a lot of specific examples they can use from. Think of student government. Think of the teamwork that goes into working through problems and addressing issues, the communication aspect that is an important part of that. Even just think of Greek life and all the things that go on there. So many leadership positions within executive council. And again, the teamwork and organization that goes into those kinds of things with meetings and organization of events. There's so much that goes into that. And so you've got to be able to communicate those specific examples when you are communicating to an employer. So here's what I want you to think a little bit about. If you were just to pick out of those 8 competencies that were up on the screen, 2 of them, and think about 2 specific examples you would use to support those skills. So here's those 8 again. You might even leave career management out of them, but you were thinking these other areas. Pick 2 and give it 1 example for each as a specific example. So for example, like communication, you don't just want to put or say, I like talking to people. I'm good at talking to people, so that's why I'm good at communication. You want to have like a specific example, like, I worked in a restaurant job and I was the front hostess area. I communicated and answered questions all the time, and they won't put somebody in that position unless they're a fairly good communicator. Now with that specific example, I've done a much better job of communicating that. So think about those specific examples. Now let's relate that to the employment world. So let's say you are applying to this particular job description. What are the important things you see there? What is this employer really looking for? Hopefully you pulled out those specific skills that are in this job description. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I am supporting and matching these skills with what I communicate to the employer. And that starts in a couple different ways. The first one's your resume. The first thing that they may see is your resume. And from a piece of paper, you're trying to get in there to get an interview. Where this can play out is when I am putting my job experience together. So in my descriptions, I want to match that to the particular things that they want for in the job description. Now, I want to be very clear here. On your resume, you will not have these skill words at the end of your descriptions. I only put those there to kind of show you that when I see a job description, like I do here, see those keywords? So if I've got anything in my jobs that relate to that, I am putting those as descriptions. So these skill words will not be at the end of your descriptions, but you do want very good descriptions and very specific descriptions, and you want to try and match them to the skills that you're looking for. Now let's talk about the interview. So let's say you do get selected with your resume and come in for the interview. So those examples are still huge. You must use examples when answering questions. And you really need to be specific. So, for example, a common interview question is, what are your two biggest strengths? So let's say I get that question, what are your two biggest strengths? And I say, well, my ability to talk to people and my time management. So I've answered the question, but you know what? I haven't really answered that question. I haven't given anything to back up my answer. So a much better answer would be, well, one of my skills, for example, is I think I am great at time management. For example, besides taking a full load of classes, I actually have two jobs. During the week, I work a 10-hour job on campus, and then on the weekends, I work at least 10 hours in a restaurant. I'm also on the executive board of one of my student organizations, and with all that going on, I've still maintained over a 3.0 GPA. Now, with that specific example, I have answered that question. So you really need to use examples. So when you think about that job position now, think about what would you use to match that? Here's the skills they want. What examples would you use to kind of highlight those particular skills? Now just think about your whole career at USC and all the things that you're going to be doing. Think of all the academic things that you're doing, your big research projects, your other special projects, labs, all those kinds of things that you're doing in course. Then think of all the things you're doing outside, your internships, leadership activities. Maybe you got a job on campus, maybe you're outside jobs that you have, and just think of all these skills, all these examples you have that are going to support these skills that you can communicate to an employer. If you're not graduating in the next month or so, then you got opportunities to get involved in a lot of these different areas. There's so many different leadership positions on campus. There's lots of places to get involved. And then again, like I said, once you do and you reach the end of your college career, you're just going to have so many places to pull examples from that you should be able to communicate very well your skill set to an employer. Now, I want to kind of relate again. Let's go back to those majors and careers. So I'm going to throw some careers up here, and I want you to think about what's the first major that comes to mind that you would need to get that particular career. So with human resources, what major would you need to get into human resources? How about law? What major do you need to be an undergrad to get to law? What about a management trainee? What kind of major you need for that? And how about client services? So as you went through these, I can imagine some of what you thought instantly. Like human resources, you probably thought something like business. Sometimes people think something like sociology. With law, I get a lot of political science or history. Management trainee, everybody always thinks business, that's an entry-level business type position. Client services relates a lot or sounds like technology, so people think computer services. I will tell you, every single one of these, any of our majors can get into these particular careers. Okay, so we've got English and comm people that are in HR. We've got every single major I think we have has gone to law school and gone into law. Again, we've got fine arts and other majors that transition into management trainee positions, and every major gets into client services. So Just the ability of getting that degree gives you a skill set that you can apply to a lot of positions. So if you just look at this position, this is enterprise has a lot of management trainee type positions. But if you look at a position like this, you will see down here a lot of the skills they highlight that you would need, such as organization or the ability to multitask, or teamwork or communication or computer skills. So when I am armed with a lot of examples to support this, I can really match myself to particular positions as I see them. And that's your goal. You have to be able to match yourself to an organization or a position. We mentioned before, the people that have struggled have not been able to communicate that match. They've not been able to show what they did before matches what the employer wants. And that's really going to be what your goal is. I always end this just by letting you know there are a lot of things that we can do in career services to help you with that. Whether it is the resume or interview, whether it's LinkedIn or any of those strategies, we can help you with that process. Doesn't matter what year you are, or even alumni, you're always welcome to use career services for anything that you may need to reach career goals. But again, it's about communicating to an employer what you have that fits, and you getting your college degree is going to give you a wealth of career competencies. Now it's your job to be able to communicate that effectively. Good luck.